What's going on, Third Army? Joe here, and I have another viewer question for you. This one comes from Sam, and he asked me to go over what is over-channeling and how to avoid it. 4 examples for you today, so let's get into it. Before we go into actual heads, we need to talk about this, which is the ball, which is the entire point of this game. And stringing in general is all controlled around this. The entire idea of stringing is to allow you more control over this in terms of keeping it in the stick and getting it out of the stick, or getting on the stick more accurately, or out of the stick harder, or just feel. It's all revolves around this ball. So this is our main factor. So when we start to think about channeling, the entire idea is to have more control over what we want in this exact dimension. So I really like the idea of understanding the size of a ball just by looking at it, because this will really dictate first the depth of your pocket. I know a lot of people that have strung sticks, and as soon as they give it to me, I'm like, it's too deep, it's illegal, because I can pretty much tell you the exact depth of this because I've done this so many times. The second most important thing is the actual width of this ball, which is the same as the depth going the other way, because that is the exact width we want our channel to be. If it's under-channeled, the ball's gonna rattle around and give you less hold. If it's over-channeled, the ball's not gonna be thrown out of the stick. So it's really this kind of balance between hold and release, which we've talked about a million times. And I really like this idea of this video and kind of explaining something that I just think people know when it comes to this. I think you guys know the feeling of it, but more so kind of understanding the actual physics behind it. So a ball is really important to kind of be measuring all these things and kind of understand exactly what we're trying to do with this mesh. And I want to give a big shout out to Chris over at Mainly Mesh, because he took a phrase from his science background, because he's a genius, and applied it to Lacrosse channels, and that is the Goldilocks theory, or paradox, I think he calls it. And the idea is like, just like Goldilocks, like some porridge is too hot, some porridge is too cold, something right in the middle is absolutely perfect. And that's the same idea with the Goldilocks theory when it comes to kind of space, as the Earth is perfectly far enough away from a sun, but not too far enough where life can inhabit it, so we're not too cold or we're not too hot. And both of those things are exact parallels to having a channel either too tight or too loose, or over-channeled, or not channeled enough. So we need to understand the ball, and now let's get into the 4 examples. I'm understanding the ball. I'm understanding the ball. So first up, we have our under-channeling issue, which I don't think many people have by now, just because of the amount of information out there. I think definitely over-channeling is more of the issue. And to be honest with you, I didn't really have a stick laying around that was under-channeled, so I just tightened an old one up to try and give you the same look. As you can see, it's not deep enough. You know, here's our ball, it's just not deep enough. But you can still get the kind of the same view from the front of it to understand what under-channeling is. So when you look down an actual stick, like, you guys have seen me do this a million times, I've been made fun of it a million times, but not only am I centering the pocket, but I'm actually looking down at the channel to see how deep it is, where the deepest part of it is, meaning when I'm pushing my fist back and forth, is it low, is it mid, is it high? And also to make sure that my sidewalls are exactly perfect and symmetrical to not have any hooking problems. So I'm solving like 4 common problems with stringing by doing one thing and just looking at it. That's one thing you guys should probably start to learn and understand. That's what I'm doing there, not just trying to make it look pretty for you. But if a stick is under-channeled, what will pretty much happen is when you look down at it, it won't be smooth. So the transition from flat to the side to, or the flat to the ramp to the side. So we're gonna say this is the flat. The ramp is actually what connects the bottom part of the pocket to the top part, and then the actual sides itself. It'll all kind of be wonky. And the reason it's wonky is that you're kind of just torturing it to not do it at once. We engineer our mesh to, again, know thy ball. And when you really string a stick correctly, which isn't too hard to do, you know, but like really there's a kind of a way to do it. It'll be nice and smooth in pretty much every direction, which will give you the most feel and have the most consistent release. I love sticks that really aren't too channeled or have crazy amounts of hold. I more so like a stick that has good hold, and I can literally get rid of the ball at any time, at any angle that I'm at, because I play a little non-conventional, probably from my hockey background. And that's what I kind of designed all of our products for, is to really help everyone just be better, not a certain specific style of thing to be better. And then we get into our pockets, there is where we can, like, you know, ramp up the performance in certain spots to match your game. If it's under channel, the ball is just gonna kind of rattle around in here, and you're not gonna get the benefits of a performance mesh and the kind of the benefits of a truly well-strung stick. And you'll know it immediately because it'll just feel disgusting. Actually, maybe you won't know it immediately because you've never had a stick that was strung really, really well. Just know if it looks really ugly, like, hold on, just wait. I'm gonna get one more example. So here's a stick that was left at my last men's league game, and I just picked it up until Corona is over, and then I can bring it back. But this is an example of a unchanneled stick. I don't even know how this dude plays with this, and he played at Colgate. Maybe that's how he plays with it, because he played at Colgate, and he's pretty filthy. But looking at this, it's just absurd. He does kind of face off with it, so that kind of brings in some other reasons why it's so terrible. But here you can see just a no channeled stick whatsoever, and it's gonna give you none of the benefits of the stick is supposed to with the mesh and the pocket and the design of the head. So know if it looks like this, you're doing something wrong. And then if you're getting close, but it's not as perfect as it could be, it's gonna look like something like this and just be kind of deeper where the ball is gonna be there, but a little bit wonky. And really the main issue with this stick, as I said earlier, it just needs to be a little bit deeper, and then the top could be adjusted a little bit slightly based on how deep we want that. But just know if it's under channeled, that's way easier to fix than over channeling, and you can actually play with it. If you over channel a stick, you're gonna have a hard time playing with it. So now we're gonna go to the other extreme, and that is over channeling. And what I did for this is I just literally took the string that was in here and I dropped it down another row, just stretching everything a little bit too much. Because again, we are looking for that nice middle ground between too hot and too cold, or too channeled and too under channeled. So this is the solar release, and in this head, it really exaggerates the channeling because the Havoc is so aggressive, and it's the thing I really love about this stick. But when you look down it, you can just see how crazy channeled it is, because again, we wanted to make it the width of the ball. And if you look here, it is way more narrow than the width of the ball. And what this does is when it's more narrow than the width of the ball, it grips the ball going the entire way out of the stick. So that transition, when it comes up to the top here, really isn't transitioning, where you only have like 3 to 4 diamonds connecting with the ball. Currently, we still have like full 6 to 7. And what that does is makes the ball have too much grip on it, stays in the stick too long, past where it's supposed to release, and that's the reason it throws down. A good way to test this is to actually just roll the ball. See how it came back at me? That means it's gonna throw into the ground. A nice stick that's strung, or we'll take the under-channeled stick. See how it goes that way? That's a stick that has no whip in it. This stick really shouldn't have that much whip if it was channeled correctly because of its geometry and shooter setup, but since it's over-channeled, that ball just never wants to leave that stick. You're never gonna get stripped. You're never, ever, ever gonna get the ball taken out of your stick, but you can't pass, and you can't throw the entire stick in a goal for a goal. I've tried it, it's illegal, so don't do that. And so if you can't pass, you're not playing lacrosse. Through this one is just kind of a secondary one. This one is just a little bit smaller than the width of a ball. But I think it's gonna have a nice smooth release, and that's kind of because the geometry of the side of this head kind of cheats a little bit. I don't want to say cheats, but like it kind of flares up and back, which allows the mesh to be even tighter here. Because if you're over channeling, it's a little bit higher of a pocket, you just have so much slack. That ramp becomes so drastic at the top of the stick that's gonna hook. But you can see here when I push it in, it still stays pretty just average, kind of releasing, and which is gonna give you a ton of hold with a nice clean release to it. But again, when you go down and you put the ball into it, it's just slightly tighter than the ball. And then when you come up, you can see it's really not connecting as many diamonds towards the top there. So let's check the release on this guy. Oh yeah, so you can see right there, about halfway. It's not crazy, it's not terrible, it's about halfway. This is something that I would use. I'd probably tighten up the bottom string a little bit to give me a little bit quicker release on it. But if you're an attackman that just never wants that ball to come out and you're gonna snap your wrist down when you shoot, this thing would be, you'd be insane. This is like what we string or used to string for Billy Bitter, where it was just like he just wanted to bull dodge through everyone, fall into the crease and score. And it's pretty great. So you can have a little bit tiny in there tight if you want to go a little bit more aggressive. You just got to know that your shooter's got to be on point and the head has to match it. Like if we did this in either of these heads, that the release is higher up in the head, it's going to have too much. But in this head and the next one we're going to talk about, which is a very gradual release, you can get away with it. This is kind of getting into that like elite specialized tweaking of a stick. And that's once more so you really know what you're talking about. You know what style head you like. You're familiar with mesh, kind of your shooter setup, and you can start kind of cheating your way to getting kind of the best of both worlds. So next up, we have a really cool example. Here's the Quencher head, one of my favorite we've ever done. I absolutely love it. I don't love orange, but when orange is done right, it's just so cool. When I like pitched this as an idea, I was like, orange and green. Everyone here kind of threw up. And then I was like, think Gatorade. And everyone's like, that's dope. Let's do that right now. And it was awesome. It's one of our best selling ones of all time. I haven't pulled this out in a while, so really, really love this stick. So this is a really good example of just how beautiful you can make a lacrosse head, but also performance with our style pockets and stringing. And this is exactly something I would use. So when you first look at this stick, the first thing I notice is that the shooters aren't very curved compared to normal kind of thrown, strung standards. But when you look down at the channel, you're like, meh, that looks pretty good channel. It's not amazing, but you're like, that's a pretty good channel. But if you take the ball and you put it in, it's literally the exact width of a ball. And this makes me so happy. Because right there where I'm gonna be carrying that ball, it's the exact width. It's gonna wrap around the ball. It's gonna give me unbelievable amount of hold and feel to the stick. But then when I go to release it, you can see pretty quickly it goes up to like, there's like 4 diamonds and then 3 right before it hits the top of the shooter right here. We're really only connecting with those 3 diamonds right there, right before the shooter. This is going to have the most accurate, nice, simple, quick release that you don't even think about it. You just throw it and it goes in the goal. And you're like, oh, that was pretty easy. Because just that transition from that deepest part to the highest part is way more gradual than all the other ones we've looked at. And then when it gets to right here, we're not having any contact with the diamond, so it's gonna be nice and smooth. But again, it starts with that just being a ball width apart. I've strung a ton of commands where we've done a bunch of different sidewall patterns, tried a bunch of different ideas. And this one is a little bit less aggressive. It's a little bit less cool looking, but in terms of performance, it's absolutely perfect. And that's like when you see something like this on Instagram and you're like, yo, that's ridiculous. That looks amazing. Yeah, it looks good. It's not gonna throw good. And I don't want that. I wanna have a really cool looking stick and go and do really cool stuff on the field as opposed to just having a really cool stick. So this is what I think is that Goldilocks paradox. This is the not too hot, not too cold for someone like me. And it's all driven around knowing, look at the depth's even perfect. It's like utterly perfect, and then a smooth release. And I just know this is gonna just be absolute money. Look at that. Absolute money. Comes out consistent every single time, and yet it's gonna have some good hold to it. So that's kind of channeling in general, or over channeling. It really is understanding the extremes of both and slapping it right in the middle. And that's a lot of times where we say like, you know, the balance between hold versus release. Hold, over channeling. Release, under channeling. Sam, I hope that answered your question. That was a fun one. Really appreciate that comment. Other quick updates. We are continuing to do our 20% off with the Stay Safe promo. I'll have all that info in the description like always. And we've also updated our shipping methods based on kind of everything that's going on right now, and really took a look at what we could do for you guys, because a lot of you guys are ordering our smaller stuff, meaning just some fiber stringing and some powder. And we wanted to kind of have another option for shipping that was cheaper. So I believe we were at $7.99 flat rate for anything on our website. But now if you're ordering stringing and powder, we actually are able to drop that to $3.99. Flat rate, so same great service, but you guys are gonna get it even cheaper because those smaller things are cheaper to send now that we figured kind of all this out, and we were able to make it auto adjust depending on what type of goods that you guys are purchasing, because most again are using this really good promotion we have right now, 20% off, and we want to try and make it sure you guys can get everything you want at a reasonable time and a reasonable price with everything going on. So check it out, throwinlacrosse.com. As always, hope you guys are staying safe. Hope you guys throw the video a like if you learn anything. And as always, let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Let's keep this going. And I'll see you guys on the field.